When you think about Scotland, beyond the amazing scenery and maybe the whiskey, you almost certainly picture the clans.
Definitely. They were more than just big families. They were, well, whole ways of life. Kinship, loyalty, identity, all tied up in that rugged Highland landscape.
And today we're doing another deep dive into one of the most well-known and influential of them all, Clan Campbell.
Indeed. We looked at Clan MacDonald last time, and now we're shifting focus. Our main source, again, is a book from the Ancient Clans of Scotland series. It's compiled by bagtownplans.com, published by Rigby Publishing.
And this one's simply called Clan Campbell.
That's the one.
Okay, so this book, it looks pretty comprehensive. It's laid out really clearly, covering everything from, the early history, traditions, those famous tartans, even some of the legends.
Yeah, it really covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And you can feel the respect in it. It's dedicated right at the start to the descendants of Clan Campbell, aiming to honor their past and inspire the future.
That's a nice touch. And for you listening, if you want to check out the book yourself, Clan Campbell, and the others in the series, they're available on Amazon. We'll put a link in the description, of course.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the most interesting bits, the key insights from this book, give you a good handle on Clan Campbell's huge place in Scottish history.
Without getting totally swamped in dates and names, right?
Exactly. A shortcut to understanding them.
We know you like getting the important stuff quickly, but, thoroughly. And if you do happen to have Campbell connections yourself, well, this deep dive, or maybe the book itself, could be pretty meaningful.
Or even as a gift, perhaps.
Yeah.
For someone with Campbell roots, a book from this series could be a really thoughtful idea.
Good point. Okay, so ready to jump into the world of the Campbells.
Let's do it. Maybe start with the basics. What actually is a Scottish clan?
Right. The book kicks off with that. The word clan itself comes from the Gaelic clan, which just means children. Simple enough.
But it was way more complex than just our modern idea of a nuclear family, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Clans were these big kinship groups, usually under one name, often believing they shared a common ancestor way back when. But, and this is important, the book stresses not everyone was blood related.
Right. People could join for protection or land or just allegiance, and they'd become part of the clan over time.
Yeah, fully integrated. And what held them all together? The book talks about customs, traditions, leadership, and loyalty. That seems huge.
Paramount, really. Loyalty to the chief, loyalty to your kin. It gave you safety, a purpose, a place to belong. Especially up in the Highlands, life could be tough.
So everyone had a role. Farming, crafts, fighting. Everyone contributed in return for that loyalty and protection.
Pretty much. It was a tightly knit society built on mutual support.
But it wasn't all equal, was it? There was a hierarchy. The book mentions that.
Definitely. At the very top, you had the chief, seen as the ultimate protector, almost like the father of the clan.
And being chief wasn't just about birthright, was it? The book says they needed leadership skills, fairness, bravery in battle.
Yeah, they had to earn that respect too. Below the chief were the chieftains, heads of the different branches, maybe managing specific territories, often relatives of the chief.
Okay. And then the tacksmen, what were they?
The tacksmen. They were really important, kind of like middle management, you could say. They leased big chunks of land from the chief or chieftains.
And they collected rents?
Collected rents, yeah, oversaw farming, kept order locally, and crucially, they had to muster fighting men when the call went out.
Gotcha. And then there were other roles, too, like bards and warriors.
Right. Bards were like living libraries, keeping the clan's history alive through poems and songs. And warriors, obviously, ready to defend the clan's land and honor.
And how did they show they belonged? Visually, I mean.
Well, symbols were huge. Each clan had its crest, its motto for the Campbells. It's Neoble Ferras, do not forget. Very powerful.
Do not forget.
Wow, yeah. And of course, the tartans. Those unique patterns became instantly recognizable symbols of identity and pride.
The book really paints a picture of daily life, too. Sounds very communal, lots of cooperation.
Mostly farming, herding, crafts. Everyone's work fed into the clan's well-being. Life was demanding, no doubt, but deeply interconnected.
And stories around the fire weren't just entertainment. They were passing down history, values.
Exactly. Reserving the culture, the clan's story.
Okay, so that's the general idea of a clan. Now let's zoom in on the Campbells. Where did they actually come from?
Well, the book covers both the traditional stories and the historical records. Tradition claims they descend from Diarmid O'Duin.
Diarmid O'Duin, from the old kingdom of Dalriada.
That's the one, part of ancient Gaelic folklore. This gave them their original Gaelic name, Clan Dubne, children of Dubne.
But the name Campbell, that's got a different origin, right? Something about a crooked mouth.
Yes. It likely comes from the Gaelic Campbell, meaning crooked mouth. Not exactly flattering, you might think.
You wouldn't think so.
But the book makes a great point. They didn't hide from it. They embraced it. It almost became a symbol of their tenacity and ambition.
That's fascinating. It shows that adaptability early on.
It really does. And adaptability became one of their hallmarks.
So when do they actually show up in writing?
The first written records pop up in the 13th century, and a key figure the book highlights is Sir Campbell Campbell, Great Colin.
Campbell Moore. He's seen as the founder of the main noble line.
Pretty much. He died fighting the MacDougalls of Lorne in 1296. And that, the book stresses, kicked off a really long and significant rivalry between those two clans. Shaped things in the West Highlands for ages.
And they backed Robert the Bruce in the Wars of Independence.
They did. A very smart move, strategically. Siding with the winner earned them royal favor, lands, influence. It set a pattern, really.
Smart politics right from the start.
Absolutely. They were becoming known as loyal to the crown, yes, but also as shrewd operators.
Yeah.
By the 14th century, they were definitely major players.
And this rise just continued. Lords, earls.
Steadily, yes. Sir Duncan Campbell became the first Lord Campbell in 1445. Then Colin Campbell became the first Earl of Argyll not long after. They were firmly in the aristocracy by then.
Involved in government, military.
And using strategic marriages, too, the book points out. Building alliances, extending their reach. By the 1500s, they were influential in both the Gaelic Highlands and the more English-speaking lowlands.
That's interesting. They operated in both worlds.
That seems to be one of their key strengths, according to the book. Their cultural and political adaptability. Deep Highlands roots, but also savvy in the lowland legal and political systems.
Gave them an edge over other Highland clans, maybe.
The book argues exactly that. They could navigate the complex relationship between the Highlands and the Crown really effectively. Built networks, got involved in reforms, showed real administrative skill. It was a flexibility others lacked.
So key traits early on. Legendary roots, embracing that odd name, backing Bruce, and this incredible adaptability. That set the stage.
Perfectly put. It laid the foundation for centuries of influence.
Okay, so let's dig into how the clan actually worked internally. The structure.
Right. The book paints a very clear picture. It was hierarchical, based on kinship, land, and, as we said, loyalty. Everyone had a place, from the chief down to the lowest tenant farmer.
And the chief, Campbell Moore, was at the absolute top.
Yes. The ultimate leader in war, protector, judge in disputes, the clan's representative to the outside world, especially the crown. Huge responsibilities.
And below him, the chieftains, leading the branches, like the Campbells of Glenorchy or Cawdor.
Exactly. Often close relatives, powerful in their own right locally, but still owing allegiance to the Campbell Moore.
You mentioned succession wasn't always just the eldest son, the Tanist.
The Tanist, yes. The chosen heir. And the book notes it wasn't always automatic. Ability, character, loyalty, these mattered. Could be a brother, cousin, not just the firstborn son.
Interesting. Then lairds.
Landowner.
Campbells, yeah. Holding authority over their estates, maybe running local courts, collecting rents for the chief in their area.
Okay, and going down the ladder, those taxmen again? All right, the taxmen. Really crucial middle heir. Often relatives. They leased large areas.
And their job was?
Collecting rents from smaller tenants, keeping order, local defense, and vitally, raising those fighting men for the chief when needed.
Got it. And estate managers, forester, all managing the chief's resources.
Precisely. Overseeing the chief's personal lands, cattle droving, food stores, the mayor or steward ran the chief's household, the castle accounts. Even the forester, protecting woodlands and organizing hunts, had a specific important role.
It sounds incredibly organized. What about the military side?
Also structured, there was the clan warrior elite, the fine, highly trained fighters, often from the gentry, the core fighting force.
Led by commanders?
Military commanders, yes. Often relatives or experienced warriors. They handled training, strategy, led forces in battle.
And the chief had personal bodyguards?
The Lochawe, hand-picked elite warriors, always with the chief, a symbol of his status and their commitment to protecting him.
Wow. But it wasn't just about administration and fighting, was it? The cultural roles sound vital, too.
Hugely important, the book emphasizes. The bards, poets, storytellers, musicians. The living memory of the clan. Passed down history, genealogies, epics, all through songs and verses.
And the Shanakis, they were the official historians.
Exactly. Recorders of lineage, laws, major events. Then you had pipers using the bagpipes for battle, celebrations, ceremonies. essential.
And harpers before the pipes?
Yes, playing the traditional Gaelic harp at more formal gatherings. And don't forget the clan nobility, the leading gentry. They supported the chief, fostered children between branches to cement alliances, arranged those strategic marriages.
So much intricate connection. And finally, the common clanspeople.
The backbone, really. Farmers, blacksmiths, herders, the ordinary folk who worked the land and formed the bulk of the army when needed.
Including crofters and cotters.
Yeah.
Tenant farmers.
Right. Crofters had small rented plots. Cotters were generally lower status, maybe less land, often working for others, but all part of that interconnected structure. It was this whole system, the book makes clear, that gave Clan Campbell its strength and resilience.
Absolutely. And speaking of the leaders, the book gives a timeline of the chiefs. Really shows their long history.
It does. Starts way back with Sir Gillespie Campbell around the mid-13th century. Then the key figure, Sir Colin Campbell, Caoilinn Mór, around 1280 to 1294.
And it just keeps going. Sir Niels, Sir Collins, Sir Archibalds.
Right through the centuries, leading to Sir Duncan Campbell, the first Lord Campbell in the mid-1400s. That was a big step up.
And then the Earldom of Argyll for Colin Campbell later that century.
Exactly. Cementing their place in the top tier of nobility. Then a whole string of earls, often Archibald or Colin, guiding the clan through some really pivotal times.
Like the 17th century, the Marquess of Argyll.
Archibald Campbell, first Marquess, a massive figure, deeply involved in the Civil War period, very complex, very influential.
And later that century, another Archibald becomes the 9th Earl.
Yes, and then crucially, in 1685, another Archibald is made the first Duke of Argyll. That's the peak of their noble status, reflecting their power in Scotland and Britain.
And the dukes continued. John, Archibald, George.
Right through the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries, each duke inheriting that legacy, shaping it.
And today,
The book lists the current chief as Torquil Campbell, the 13th Duke of Argyll since 2001. Seeing that unbroken line really drives home their continuity.
it really does. A tangible link across centuries. And these chiefs ruled over significant lands and castles. Let's talk about those.
Right, their territory. The book tracks their move from early bases like Innis Channel Castle on Lochawe.
A strategic island fortress.
Very strategic, yeah,
Yeah.
back in the 13th century. But the big move, mid-15th century, was to Inverary on Loch Fyne. That became the main seat.
And Inverary Castle is still the duke's home today.
It is, and the whole region around it, Argyll, became the absolute heartland of Campbell power.
And they expanded from there.
Massively. Across the Western Highlands, Cowal, Knapdale, Kintyre, Lorne, even out into the Inner Hebrides Islands like Mull, Tiree, Jura, Iona.
How did they manage that? Royal charters, marriages.
A combination, the book explains. Shrewd negotiation, strategic marriages, royal favor. Sometimes, yes, at the expense of rivals like the MacDonalds and Macleans. They really became the dominant force on the West Coast.
And they controlled key castles, too. Dunstaffnage, Dunoon.
Exactly. Dunstaffnage, Dunoon, Carrick, Castle Sween. Not just forts, but administrative hubs, projecting their authority.
And they had a lowland base, too. Castle Campbell used to be Castle Gloom.
That's right. Gained through marriage.
Inca.
In Clackmannanshire, it even hosted Mary, Queen of Scots, showing their status across Scotland.
What about the branches? Like the Breadalbane Campbell?
Ah, yes, the book details them. Based in Perthshire, descended from the Glenorchy Campbells, huge territory. Their castles included Kilchurn, Ednample, Finlarig, Accalader, and the really grand Taymouth Castle.
Taymouth, wasn't that where Queen Victoria visited?
It was. Hosted Victoria and Albert in 1842. Shows the Breadalbane influence even then.
And the Campbells of Cawdor, up near Nairn.
Got Cawdor Castle through marriage in 1510. Expanded into Islay and Jura later. Still an active branch.
And Lowdown and Ayrshire, lowland influence there, too.
Yes, hereditary sheriffs of Ayrshire. Lowdon Castle was their seat. Big players in the southwest.
It's striking how many of these castles are ruins now, as the book mentions.
Poignant, isn't it? Silent witnesses, while others, like Cawdor and Inverary, are still homes or heritage sites. Powerful reminders of their reach.
And the book stresses they weren't just military bases, they were cultural centers, too.
Often, yes. Hosting important people, fostering arts, showing the Campbells' broader influence.
The landscape still shows their mark. Place names, titles, it's quite something.
Their castles and lands really tell a story of ambition, loyalty, rivalry, resilience, shaped Scotland.
Okay, let's look closer at those main branches you mentioned.
Sure, the book outlines the key ones clearly. First, obviously, the Campbells of Argyll, the chief's line, the Dukes of Argyll, back to Caoilinn Mór, based at Inverary.
Then Breadalbane, descended from Black Colin of Glenorchy.
That's them. Became Earls of Breadalbane in 1681. Very powerful, especially around the time of Glencoe. Their role there is debated.
Yeah.
The direct male line ended in the 20th century, though.
And Cawdor got the castle through marriage way back.
Right, in 1510. Became Earls of Cawdor much later, in the 19th century. And the book says they're still a prominent branch today, still connected to the castle.
Loudon got Ayrshire lands through marriage.
In the 14th century, yeah. Became Earls of Loudon in 1633, but their direct male line died out. The title passed through marriage to the Hastings family.
And Stracher, the MacArthur Campbells. An older line, maybe?
Possibly even older than the Argyll line, the book suggests. Influential in Cowell historically, though less so now. And there are many other branches listed too, showing how widespread they were.
Which leads nicely into the idea of septs, these associated names.
Exactly. The book explains septs really well. Families linked to the main clan, but with different surnames. Linked by blood, marriage, land, or just long-term allegiance.
So they weren't Campbells, but considered part of the clan?
Right. Over time, they became recognized as part of the wider clan structure, expanded the clan's reach, manpower, influence.
The book gives examples.
Loads of them. Arthur, MacArthur, linked to a legendary ancestor, Arthur. The Bantines served as lieutenants on Bute allegiance and service.
Even Burns, like Robert Burns.
There's a traditional link, yeah, however slight. Shows the broad connections. Cadell and Calder came in through inheriting lands.
McIvers, captains of Inverary Castle.
Yes, a distinct Campbell lineage, long military connection. McEwens became the clan historians, the Senachis, after their own clan declined. A cultural link.
And the book warns some names, like Harris, might be mistaken connections.
Yeah, it cautions against assumptions. It shows how complex these links could be, formed over centuries through all sorts of ways.
Okay, let's talk symbols. The clan crest badge, the boar's head.
Very striking. Gold boar's head, silver tusks, red tongue. Surrounded by a belt with the motto, Neo Boliviscaris.
And that honors Durhamwood, the ancestor killed by a boar.
Exactly. Represents courage, loyalty, remembering history. A really potent symbol.
And the plant badge. Bog myrtle.
Bog myrtle, or roidy egg in Gaelic, common in Argyll, worn in bonnets to show allegiance, ties them to their homeland. Still used today.
The heraldic arms. Girony of 8, or in sable. Sounds complicated.
It just means 8 alternating triangles of gold and black radiating from the center. Very distinctive. Dates back to the 15th century. Symbolizes the unity of all the Campbell branches.
Like a visual signature. And the pipe tune. The Campbells are coming? Everyone knows that one.
Instantly recognizable. Played to announce Campbell warriors arriving, especially from Inverary.
Yeah.
Still played constantly at gatherings, games, a real sound of pride.
And the chief's Gaelic title, Macaelan Mór, son of Great Colin.
Right. Links directly back to Sir Caelian Mór, the founder. Still the formal Gaelic way to refer to the Duke of Argyll today. Connects past and present.
Let's go back to that motto. Ne obliviscaris, do not forget. What's the deeper meaning?
The book explains it's about pride in their heritage, yes, but also responsibility. Remembering lineage, obligations, learning from history, the good and the bad.
Using Latin gives it a certain weight, too.
Scholarship, authority, a timeless feel. It's a powerful instruction.
And the battle cry, Croachan, after the mountain.
Ben Croachan, yeah. The big mountain near Lochawe in their heartland.
Yeah.
Symbolizes strength, connection to home, resilience.
Shouted in battle to inspire the Campbells and scare the enemy.
Exactly. And the book notes it was adopted by the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders Regiment, and even lives on today with the Royal Regiment of Scotland's mascot pony named Croachan.
That's brilliant. A living link. Okay, tartans. Hugely symbolic. The book says there are loads registered, but only 4 are officially recognized by the chief.
That's right. Over 40 exist, but 4 are key. The main one is the Campbell, often called the Black Watch tartan.
Dark blue, green, black, adopted by the Black Watch Regiment.
In 1725, yes, became a symbol of military service as well as clan loyalty. Practical colors for the Highlands, too. It's the standard, most widely worn Campbell tartan.
Then Campbell of Breadalbane adds yellow stripes.
Thin yellow stripes on the Black Watch base. Represents the Breadalbane branch, worn by their militia, the Breadalbane Fencibles. Symbolizes their specific lineage and military history.
Campbell of Cawdor, red and light blue overstripe.
Right. Gives it a brighter look, but still clearly Campbell. Represents the Cawdor family's heritage, officially recognized.
And Campbell of Loudon, yellow and white stripes.
Associated with the Ayrshire Loudons. Again, brighter, higher contrast, also official. Represents that branch's identity.
And the book mentions some unofficial ones, too. Dress tartans, even one from Canada.
Yeah, like the Campbell dress. The disavowed Campbell of Argyll in a Campbell hunting tartan from Canada shows how tartan evolves.
Fascinating. Now, beyond history and symbols, clans always have folklore, ghost stories. Does the book cover those?
Oh yes, it has a great section on supernatural tales associated with the Campbells. Adds another layer entirely.
Ooh, brilliant. Like what?
Well, there's the Piper's Warning at Duntroon Castle. A Campbell piper left behind when MacDonald's took the castle. He played a warning tune before they captured him and brutally cut off his hands.
Grim.
Very. His ghost supposedly haunts the place, and apparently during renovations they found a skeleton missing its hands. People still report hearing faint piping.
Chilling. What else?
The Lady of Lores and the Curse of Breadalbane. A woman with second sight who predicted misfortunes for the Breadalbane Campbell's loss of land. Titles. Some prophecies apparently came true. Her ghost is said to haunt Lochawe.
Wow. Prophecies and ghosts. What about Inverary Castle?
Phantom Harpist of Inverary.
Story goes an Irish harpist was murdered there during Montrose's campaign in the 17th century.
Echoing harp music. Ghostly laughter reported sometimes. The family traditionally sees him as an omen of death, especially if heard in the sealed MacArthur room. The book even mentions it was supposedly heard before the 10th Duke died.
Creepy. Any more?
The Elle-Maid of Dunstaffnage. A green spirit who only appears to Campbells, smiles for good luck, weeps for sorrow. People used to leave offerings. Footsteps heard before big events.
Any guardian spirit, sorta.
Seems like it. And the book lists others briefly: owls at Inverary, meaning death, ghosts at Barcaldine and Kilchurn, a whispering tree, headless rider, strange lights, a haunted mirror, a banshee, spectral soldiers marching. Lots of spooky lore.
Adds a whole mystical dimension. But back to the real world and the feuds. The book covers those too. They were often brutal.
Very much so. The book details several major blood feuds. The one with Clan MacDougall started early, with Killian Moore's death. Different sides in the Wars of Independence fueled it.
Culminating in that Battle of the Pass of Brander. Campbell Bruce victory.
In 1308, yes. Led to the Campbells getting MacDougall lands, shifting power decisively in the West Highlands. Set the stage for Campbell dominance.
And the feud with the MacDonald? That sounds like a big one.
Huge and long-lasting. Really flared up after the MacDonald Lords of the Isles lost their power in the late 15th century. Campbells got much of their land, leading to bitterness.
Key events. Inverlochie. Dunaverty. Glencoe.
All mentioned. Battle of Inverlochie, 1645, the Dunaverty Massacre, 1647, and of course the infamous Glencoe Massacre in 1692. Government troops, mainly Campbells, attacking their MacDonald hosts. Still incredibly controversial.
A real dark chapter. Other feuds.
MacGregors.
Lengthy feud there. Campbells acquired MacGregor lands, played a role in getting their name outlawed after the Battle of Glenfruin in 1603. Really tried to dismantle them.
Ruthless. What about Lamonts, Macleans, Sinclairs?
Feud with Lamont saw a massacre at Dunoon in 1646. Rivalry with Macleans involved land disputes and an attempted murder. Dispute with Sinclairs over the earldom of Caithness led to the bloody Battle of Altamarlack in 1680. Heavy Sinclair losses. Even internal feuds with Clan Arthur MacArthur.
Yes, tragically. Rivalry led to betrayal and the drowning of MacArthur leaders in the 16th century. Shows power struggles could happen even within the wider kin group. It was a competitive, dangerous world.
No kidding. And these feuds often led to outright battles. The book lists key ones.
A long list, yes.
Yeah.
Shows how involved they were militarily over centuries.
Examples.
Early ones like Red Ford, 1296, Pass of Brander, 1308. Big ones like Bannockburn, 1314, where Sir Neil Campbell fought with Bruce. Flodden, 1513. Langside, 1568. Glenlivet, 1594. Just constantly involved.
And in the 17th century wars.
Heavily involved. Inverlochie, 1645.
Yeah.
Laganmore, Runahurry Moss, the Siege of Dunaverty, all mid-1640s.
Later battles, too. Altamarlack, Jacobite Risings.
Altamarlack, 1680. Argyll's Rising, 1685. Then in the Jacobite Risings. Sheriff Mirror, 1715. Falkirk Mirror, 1746. Siege of Fort William, Skirmish of Keith, both 1746. The list really shows they were central to Scotland's military history.
And speaking of the Jacobite Risings, Culloden in 1746 was pivotal. The book covers the Campbells' role there specifically.
It does. And it's significant. The Campbells firmly backed the British Hanoverian government.
Why was that? Politics, religion, rivalries.
All of the above, the book suggests. Political alignment with the Whigs, mostly Presbyterian faith, unlike many Jacobites, and those long-standing rivalries with Jacobite clans like MacDonald's and Camerons.
So they fought for the government at Culloden.
Yes. The third Duke of Argyll and his son raised several companies of the Argyll militia. At Culloden, 4 companies were on the government's left flank, behind a wall.
And they were effective.
Very. The book highlights their steady musket fire against the Jacobite right wing, played a key role in breaking the Highland charge and securing the government victory.
What about afterwards? The brutal aftermath.
Interestingly, the book notes the Campbell troops behaved with relatively more restraint than some other government soldiers. And because they were loyalists, they kept their lands and influence, even saw it grow, while Jacobite clans suffered terribly. Their support was crucial to ending the rising.
Okay, switching gears slightly. The book has a section on strange and unusual facts. Sounds fun.
It is. Little interesting nuggets. Reminds us again about the crooked mouth name origin.
And the dire Muid connection, the boar's head crest, what else? Castle Gloom?
Castle Gloom, yes. The original name for Castle Campbell also reiterates their controversial role in the downfall of the MacGregors.
And the no Campbells allowed signs. That really happened.
Historically, yes, in some Highland pubs. Shows the depth of feeling. And the Glencoe massacre connection to the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones, linking history to pop culture.
Wow. Anything else stand out?
The story of Catherine Campbell, abandoned on a rock by her husband but survived to expose him. Resilience. And Black Duncan's beheading pit at Finlared Castle. Grim dinner entertainment, apparently.
Yikes. And a connection to whiskey.
Yeah, several Campbell descendants involved in the whiskey industry over the years. Blending, marketing, shows their reach into different parts of Scottish life. It's a fun mix of facts.
Definitely adds color. The book also mentions further reading for people who want to go deeper.
A whole section, yes. Lots of historical texts, academic work listed, plenty more to explore for those interested.
Now, the Campbells didn't just stay in Scotland, did they? The diaspora.
Huge topic. The book covers their global spread extensively, starting way back in the 17th century with the Ulster plantation in Ireland.
Then later waves to North America. Why did they leave?
Economic hardship back home, political instability, chance for land ownership, especially 18th, 19th centuries, plus many served in the military or administration across the British Empire.
Where did they settle mainly in North America?
The book highlights North Carolina, Nova Scotia, Ontario as key areas. Campbell's made big contributions there, farming, business, politics.
Any famous descendants mentioned?
U.S. Supreme Court Justice John A. Campbell, Canadian PM King Campbell, shows the range. Also notes some African Americans adopted the name, especially in the South, and Campbell's a very common name in Jamaica too.
What about Australia and New Zealand?
Important destinations in the 19th century. Sir John Logan Campbell was key in developing Auckland, NZ. Places like Campbelltown in Australia named after settlers.
So how many descendants worldwide now? Any estimate?
The book estimates over 20 million people might have Campbell connections globally. The surname is incredibly widespread.
That's staggering. And there are active clan societies today.
Yes, all over the world, keeping the heritage alive. The current Duke supports these global gatherings too, fostering that connection.
And the book lists some of these societies. Contact info.
It does. Useful list covering North America, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Germany. Great resource for people wanting to connect with their roots.
Seems like a really good way to engage with the heritage.
Definitely. So wrapping up this deep dive into the book, Clan Campbell from the series, really gives a solid overview, doesn't it? Origins, structure, chiefs, lands, symbols, their global reach.
It really does cover it all. And just a reminder, if you want to explore more, the book Clan Campbell and others in the Ancient Clans of Scotland series are on Amazon. Links in the description.
Could be great for your own research. Or, as we said, a thoughtful gift for someone with Campbell ancestry or just a love of Scottish history.
So, thinking about everything we've discussed, their long, complex history, that mix of loyalty and fierce ambition, what does the Campbell story tell us about power, identity, legacy?
That's the big question, isn't it? How families, clans, nations leave their mark, for better or worse. Something profound to think about. Maybe it sparks your interest to look into other clans or other parts of Scottish history we touched on.
Definitely food for thought.